what I want to do is export the image, and then I can upload it to the OpenLab. So in my Finder, I have my PSD. So this is going to save all that information that I talked about, the layers, the masks, all of that stuff. So we can always come back and edit it and make changes if we want to. When we export an image, we can't really change that image. We can like edit it and do other stuff with it, but we don't have the original layers and the original data that we used to create the image. So we want to keep both, but what we export is what we're going to put online. So in Photoshop, once I'm done, I'm going to save this. I'm going to go to File and go to Export. And there's a few different ways to export. We can do quick export as PNG. That's probably the fastest. And so if I click that, it's going to create this PNG. And if I click Save, that's kind of the simplest, easiest one. So if I go back to the Finder, here's my image. And it looks fine. Okay, I can preview it. It looks like what I want it to look like. But one thing you'll notice is it's really, really big. It's 10 megabytes. Okay, so you might not have a sense of how much data that is. But if you think about like a song that you would stream on Spotify, a song that you stream on Spotify or Apple or whatever is probably like 3 megabytes. Okay, so you might think about how long that takes to download onto your phone. This is like over 3 times as much data. So if we want something that's going to move across the internet fast, we want to export in a more efficient way. So let's go over a couple different ones. There's a lot of different things that you can change here, so we're not going to cover every single one, but we're just going to go over a couple. So if I go to export and go to export as, this is going to give me a few more options. Okay, so I can change the format. We'll stick with PNG for a second, but I can also change the image size. I had this really big image to start out with because I wanted to have a lot of detail, but 2048 is really big. It's bigger than most phone screens. It's bigger than what we look at typically on our computers. So we can save a lot of space here. I can scale the image down. So if I scale it down to 50%, now my image is only 2.7 megabytes. So I just saved over 7 megabytes just by scaling it by half. My image is still 1024. That's pretty good. 1024 is not bad for an image size. It depends on what you want to do with it, but for now, I think that's pretty good. So I'll click Export, and for some reason, it took me to my documents. I want to go back to Desktop, and I can't use the same name, so I'm just going to put 50 at the end of this, so I can remember that this is 50% of the size of the image. So another thing I can do, I'll go to export as again. I can change the format. So I can go to JPEG. A JPEG image doesn't use as much data, so the quality might not be as good. But you can see just by changing to JPEG, I'm under a megabyte. So that's really good for an image. Ideally, I probably want to be a little bit less than that, but that's good enough. And if I'm worried about the quality, I can zoom in and look and see what's the difference. So if I want to see that, I have a lot of noise in the image anyway, but I can also compare the image. So here's my original PNG versus my JPEG. And so I can get a sense of how much data am I really losing as I zoom in. It looks pretty similar, especially since I have a lot of noise. But now when I'm zoomed in this far, you can kind of see it on the projector. See, on this side, I can see the difference between all my little pixels, right? I can see those hard edges. On this side, it's blurry. So one of the ways that the JPEG makes the information smaller is it kind of smears the colors together, so it doesn't have to have each individual color exactly right. So you can see with this quality, my JPEG is kind of bad. Let's try changing the scale. So I'm going to go to 50%. So I'll go 50% on both of these, and then I'll compare it. Okay, so it's still blurry on my JPEG. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So let's see if we do very good quality. That's a little bit better. Excellent quality. It's a little bit better. Great quality. So that's pretty good, and my image is only 2 megabytes, so it's still smaller than the PNG version. So you can play around with this and get something that you think is acceptable. You want to have something that looks good but isn't too big. So I'm going to go with the JPEG excellent, and I'm going to export. And this is going to make a different file type, so it's selfportrait1.jpg. So I'm not worried about this overwriting my other images, so I'll click save. So now I have my image, and the last thing that I want to do is put my image on the Open Lab.